Alafia, I'm Dr. Gloria Latimore-Peace, host and producer of Omni U Presents the H3O Art of Life show. This is an unusual format for us, but these are unusual times. We, of course, are here to discuss, in part, the events of the Katrina hurricane and the events that are occurring as we speak. We feel very compassionate for all of the victims of that particular episode, and we are coming to you to ask you to join with us in doing everything that you can to help to relieve the suffering. We want to bring you a bit of information that you may not get on mainstream media. So I've invited a few of my colleagues. I've invited Gail and Josef Ben Levi. I've invited Ayoka Boahene, who is the co-host of this show, and of course you know Dr. John F. Price, who is a usual guest on the show. I'd like to ask Josef Ben Levi to give us a bit of an overview, and then we will let the others contribute, and thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Peace. Of course, I'm Josef Ben Levi, and what I wanted to do is give everybody a sense of what New Orleans is all about in terms of its history. And New Orleans was originally founded in 1718 by the French. And when it was started as a penal colony for the French. So basically the whites who came from France to New Orleans were murderers, vagabonds, beggars, and these types of individuals. But by approximately 1719, you had a population in New Orleans that was predominantly African. You had over 4,000 Africans versus 3,000 whites there, and what you begin to see is that the city was basically a very Africanized city. So the city has always basically been a black city, contrary to what maybe people have known about when you think about New Orleans. And essentially back in this day, the place that we call New Orleans is what they now call the French Quarter. But there were also other peoples who were there, a lot of Native Americans like the Natchez and the Choctaw and the Chickasaw. All these people were there, and they all played an important role in the history of New Orleans. But essentially, the city of New Orleans has always been an African city. When you think about Mardi Gras, you go to Mardi Gras, you see all the floats with the names like Ogun and Yemaya and Olokun. These are all the names of African deities that are being represented on all of these floats. Or when you see the various crews they have out there, and the largest one being the Zulu crew, which is basically the African group that is there, and the Zulu King and the Zulu Parade and the Zulu Ball and all these things. These all have to do with African representations that have always been in the city of New Orleans. You have a Congo Square that's there right in what they call the Ninth Ward, where all the black people live, which is the place where all of the Africans used to gather to drum and to dance and to actually perpetuate African culture in the city of New Orleans. So there's a lot of history and culture about this place that's being eliminated by the displacement of the African population in the city of New Orleans in itself. And that's something we'll talk about a little bit later on. But for right now, I just wanted to give you a brief overview to give you an idea of the history and development of New Orleans, and to understand that New Orleans has always been a city that was basically predominated by African people, even though the vast majority of people who control the city are whites.
Thank you, Josef Ben Levi. And now I want to ask Ayoka, the co-host of the show, to contribute her feelings and her passion about the situation that we all face, even those of us who do not live in New Orleans and who never did.
First of all, I just want to say that these people that Josef talking about that we have all seen are not criminals. They are not a group of lawless people. They are not refugees. They are citizens of this country. They were the original inhabitants of New Orleans. They have history there. They are the history of that place. So for them to be criminalized is horrifying beyond measure. I want to reach out to you and ask you to please remain sympathetic to them. Please go into your homes, look for anything that you have, any clothes that you have that you don't need, that you can give, baby clothes, women's, men's, shoes, socks, anything that you can give, because they're going to need so much. This is a catastrophe beyond measure. We have never seen anything like it, and it's going to take all of our strength to get out there and full force and make sure that they get what they need. And I'm asking you to support your local organizations, your churches, as they amass efforts to get relief and support to the people of New Orleans, the great, great people, the historical people of New Orleans. And please do not lose your sense of compassion because they are being criminalized and their characters are being assassinated. Remember that these are human beings. These are babies like your babies. These are mothers like your mothers. These are grandmothers like your mothers. You cannot rest on this. You got to get up and you got to do something. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for remaining compassionate. We are all human beings. These are citizens, not refugees.
I want to make certain that we don't overlook the other parts of the South that are suffering as a result of Katrina and the events around it. Mississippi has suffered as much devastation as New Orleans has suffered, and now surrounding cities are in a state of crisis because many of the citizens who formerly lived in New Orleans, in all parts of Mississippi and all parts of Louisiana, are now trying to find their way into the cities. High schools are turning their gyms into shelters. Colleges are taking in the students from the colleges in other parts of the South that are suffering from the devastation of Katrina. Everyone in the South seems to have a sense of community that seems to be somewhat missing from people in the North, and that may be because Southern people have not lost touch. Hopefully, we have not lost touch as well. And I'd like to ask for Dr. Price to make his comments now.
Thank you, Kuruma, and thank everyone else for coming today. I would just like to reemphasize some of the points that have been made, that these are human beings. This gives us a great opportunity, each and every one of us, to become more human. When we open up our hearts and recognize, I mean, these occurrences, this catastrophe, it wasn't something that we look forward to, but it gives us an opportunity to become a human being, to be more compassionate, to let our hearts, let our thoughts go out to the people who are suffering. This world is, as I've said on many occasions, this world is a world on fire. It's just that this fire seems to be closer at home. And if we can't take care of our own family, if we can't be compassionate about our own family, how do we expect to be compassionate about people who are halfway around the world? This gives us an opportunity to measure our own humanity. And before one can even think about becoming divine, we talk about our Father in heaven, about God. This is not lip saver. We should be really, really encouraged to reach out and touch someone. We should let our heart go out. These are people just like you and I. One day they were sitting on their front porch having a talk with their kids and talking about their future. The next day, everything is all topsy-turvy. People are dying, children are dying, people are starving. We have to see that this could be you or me. This is not some foreign, way out story about somewhere in southern Sahara Africa. This is in America. This is in the city of New Orleans. Everyone basically has been to New Orleans. Such a beautiful, magnificent city. These people are you, they are me. Let us give our hearts out to these people. Let them welcome them into our community. Let them welcome us to our homes. Let us welcome whatever we can do. We can take a moment to stop our dance, our engagement into entertainment, and take a moment, because this is serious. This is a very serious, and we are on the spot. The world is watching us. So let our hearts go out. Let our compassion flow. Thank you.
I want to make certain that you understand why you can hear noise in the background. We are down at CAN TV at Chicago Access Network television station. There's a lot of activity down here. You know, business as usual, life goes on. We are in the midst of some sort of classes and auditions and whatnot, And we nonetheless have decided that we will overcome that noise, that background noise, and bring to you our message, which is a message that you must do something. If you yourself cannot do something, help someone else do something. Go to someone who cannot take something to another place that can be then taken to the victims of the Katrina hurricane. Take their things along with your things. There are many things that you can do. Help someone, or do it yourself, whichever case you decide to do. Gail?
Thank you, Dr. Peace. This is very personal for me. I am a Louisiana Creole. My family's from St. Tammany's Parish, Rapides Parish, Orleans Parish. My immediate family is safe, but my extended family is hurting. I also lived in Harrison County over in Biloxi. That part of my life is essentially gone. But again, these people need help. Do whatever you can, and it is appreciated. And please, I hope this puts a very personal human face on all of this for us, because there but for the grace of God go I.
And we have to make certain that in our zest to do something to help the victims, that we don't finance our enemies, that we do see to it that whatever it is we are given is put into the hands of people that we trust, that we know will do something to help someone who actually needs help, and not someone who is simply building a business or supporting an institution. If your church is doing nothing, then ask your leadership why. If your block club is doing nothing, you need to mobilize your block club. If you belong to any organization, if you identify yourself as in any particular group, if you are an artist, if you are a musician, if you are a mother, if you are a parent, if you are a grandparent, a sorority, whatever organization you belong to needs to begin to think and act in terms of a disaster that is not going away, and it certainly is not going to go away soon. So we need to get in a mode that we have not been in before, and that is in a mode of love thy neighbor. You know, we are our brother's keeper. In fact, we are our brothers. And if we are not taking care of them, who will take care of us when we have an emergency, as life is certain to bring us if we live long enough? So we are urging you to not just sit there and see yourself as powerless. See yourself as having the power to do something. Make a phone call, go to the grocery store, shop for things that you know that people can use. If you're going to send canned goods, send pop-top canned goods, because they may not have a can opener. Send things that you know that people who don't have a stove, who don't have a house, who may not have running water, send things that they can use. Send feminine products for ladies, sanitary products for ladies, send baby food and diapers for babies, send shaving materials for men, toothpaste, deodorant. When you get up in the morning, everything that you use, it would be a good idea to make a list of it. If you get up and wash your face with a face cloth and soap, put that on the list, make a plan to send that same thing. You use a toothpaste and a toothbrush, put that on the list. Put your deodorant on the list. Put bedding on the list. People have to sleep. They need towels. They need sheets. They need shoes, and they need house shoes. They need shoes for indoors and shoes for outdoors. They need backpacks. They need things that can enable them to assemble and keep the things that they need on a daily basis. You have no idea what it feels like to be homeless, and you don't want to have an idea about how it feels to be homeless. And on the point that Ayoka made about this notion of refugees, how can you be refugees in the country that you built? You cannot be a refugee in America if you are a person of color, because your people, our people, built the nation. And therefore, we are citizens of this nation by every standard that is human and every standard that is moral. Whether the legal standards will continue to apply becomes a question. Also, we want to broaden our view of this catastrophe to always include people who are suffering in other parts of this country. There were homeless people before we had Katrina. Those people are not in houses because a hurricane has happened. We still have people among us who are homeless, who have little or nothing, and who are surviving on the day-to-day basis. And a majority of them are women and children. Help somebody. And if you can't help somebody directly, then help somebody. Help somebody. Know that it is not just New Orleans. Know that it is also Mississippi. Know that in a moment it is going to be surrounding cities that are trying to absorb some of this population. Know that in a minute it's going to land on our doorstep. And let's start talking about preparations. We've had a lot of talk about reparations. Now it's time to talk about preparations. How will you help? How will you help on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis? You can do something. Find a way to do something. Find a way to make your organization involve your organization. Find a way to provide leadership. Make flyers, knock on doors, make telephone calls, make lists of things that somebody can do even if you can't do it. And then try to think of who can do the thing that you know needs to be done. And I'm thinking that there must be a better way to take care of the citizens who are suffering. We have all of these military bases that have been cleared, they have been closed. These are ideal for housing citizens who are homeless. They have kitchens, they have barracks, they have beds, they have all the equipment that it takes to take care of people. So I'm wondering when someone is going to speak to their alderman, their ward committeeman, their mayor, their congresspeople, their state senators and state congresspeople, as well as those who are about to convene in Washington when they finish having their vacation. It is amazing to see how slow some of this rescue effort is proceeding. But we have got to go around the middleman. We have got to get to each other and help each other. There are all kinds of people who say they're helping, but I am not able to see how they are relieving our people to the extent that they need to be relieved at the pace that I'd like to see the relief come. So we are urging you to do everything that you can and to help the children become involved. You know, children can do things too. Children can help pack things. Children can have little bake sales. They can raise money, and then you can take them to the dollar store and they can buy little things for other children. Children need coloring books and crayons. They need things to entertain themselves while they are still in these dire straits. Think of your own children. What would you want someone to do for you? What if this happened to you? What would you need? Think about yourself. Put yourself in the place of someone who has nothing. Not only has nothing at the moment, but has nothing to go back to. And that's a frightening thought, but we must contemplate what it must be like to suddenly be divested of everything that we hold dear and everything that we are accustomed to having. You know, God has said that nothing is promised. Well, the promise that we have is that we are still here, and we are alive, and we are healthy, and we are physically able to help to relieve this suffering. We have some children in the studio with us. perhaps they would like to say something about helping the children.
Well, I just wanted to say that I involved my girls when we packed our first group of supplies. The first and certainly not the last. This is going to be a long-term effort. That they help to pack their clothes, they help to choose clothes to give, they help to choose shoes and everything, and they help me to label and put things in bags. So if you want to just say what you had a chance to do yesterday, honey. What did you do? Did you just get some clothes?
Yes. I packed bags and I helped her put the stuff in the box.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. What did you have a chance to do? Did you pick some clothes out for the kids?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about the children who don't have homes?
I feel kind of upset for them, and
Are you sad?
I just feel upset, and I want to give them all my clothes, but I can't give them everything.
That you were giving, and you're going to continue to give. And I love you for that. So you can have your children to get involved. It's good for their spirit. It's a good learning lesson. It makes them to feel like they can be empowered to change their world and to change the dynamic of what they see happening, that they're not helpless. So it's something that you need to teach. You can teach your children to get involved in this, and it'll be a lesson I know that they will carry with them for the rest of their lives.
Well, I'm peeking around the side of one of the children here in the studio with us, and I really wish that you would talk to your children about things like this so that they will understand, that you will share with them your faith, that we know for certain that the sun rose this morning and that there is somebody, something, someone who is looking after us even in these moments of despair and grief. We know that. And because we know that we can trust that this universe is not run chaotically and without order, that we can do something about what occurs in our lifetime, and we can do it with the support of somebody, as the old folks used to say, somebody bigger than you and I. And so we have an obligation to do what we can because it's our turn. It has come to us as an obligation. It has come to us as a responsibility. We are not unaware. We have been given enough newscasts, even though the media seems to be spinning the stories, and we're not seeing as much of what we need to see about the situation as we would like to. It doesn't take a genius to realize that we are in deep trouble and that only the combined efforts of our community is going to relieve this suffering. We have to reach out, who said it first, and touch someone. We've got to touch. We can't depend upon other people to do it for us. Jesse Jackson said, nobody is going to save us but us, and it is never more true today than it was when he first said it. We must save us. We must save all of the people who are in jeopardy, and we must do all that we can. And I just want to ask Ben Levi to make a further comment.
All right, thank you. I think that one of the things that we have to keep in mind, especially when we're discussing this issue of refugees and the notion of our people being refugees, it's taking the human face off of it. It's making our people a non-people down there when they describe us as refugees, because refugees are people who are escaping from one country to another country. These people are more evacuees than refugees, mean, when you call them refugees, the people who are escaping from the Sudan to Darfur, from Darfur into Sudan into Chad, they are refugees because they're escaping from one country to another country to flee some type of genocide that's happening on them. But here we have in this country, right in front of our eyes, we're seeing the deaths of thousands of African American people, elderly people, babies, right in front of our face. We're looking at people having to sift through garbage on the street to find food. When the United States government, in most cases, the military can set up a hospital in 2 days. They can, 24 hours, they can lay down a road in 24 hours. They could accomplish all of these things, but it appears to me that because of the spin, and when we're talking about spin, understand that spin is just another word for lying. Right? This is the buzzword that they use whenever they want to tell a lie. They're putting a spin on it. Well, when they put the spin on it, they take the humanity out of it. And of course, since these are African American people, they don't know how many people we had. That's why they keep saying they keep finding people. Yeah, because there's a lot of us. And there's a lot more of us than the census could ever tell. And certainly down there in this place, in Orleans Parish and in the Ninth Ward, they talk about the Ninth Ward. But those who've been to New Orleans know that the Ninth Ward is a heavily populated black part of the city that is underwater, that's suffering from all of these things. And the city is under occupation.
Absolutely.
When you put a city up under occupation, when you place a city up under martial law, then you have all these people out here who have, when you're under martial law, your freedoms are taken away from you. One of the commentators was talking about posse comitatus. Posse comitatus is a law that restricts the militia of the United States, that is the National Guard, to doing the duty of maintaining responsibilities here within the states of the United States. It does not mean that they have to be overseas somewhere, because their duty is to maintain order and be here for the situations that we're facing, like in New Orleans. Well, what would happen if the San Andreas Fault decides to act up, and we have an earthquake, and we find San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego out there in the Pacific Ocean? Then we're faced with a real serious problem. And there are other major problems whether you're not going on in the world right now. Osaka, Japan is facing a typhoon right now. They just had one in southern China just a week ago. So there are many, many, many types of problems that are going on out there, and we need to be aware and try to come to grips with the fact that this is a major disaster that is happening right in front of our faces, and we have to step up and do something about it, because these are our people that are being faced with this out there. And if this had been in Florida or Texas, Galveston, Texas, or a place like that, you would have had airdrops right there immediately. But because this is New Orleans, where 70% of the population is African American, it appears that nobody wanted to move fast enough, and now we're talking about 5 days afterwards, and people are still stuck in this predicament that they're in.
Well, I certainly couldn't agree more that we need to do whatever we can to make certain that the monies that are being sent to the major organizations are used in an equitable manner, so that all people who are suffering will be able to be relieved of their suffering. When I hear numbers like $78 million, and then I look at the devastation continue, I'm trying to figure out where is this money being applied, because if I'm still seeing people on rooftops, if I'm still hearing stories about flatbed trucks loading up bodies, if I'm still seeing destruction and devastation everywhere I look, then I have to wonder, where is the money going? Because the money I ought to be able to see something different than what I have been seeing for the last 5 days. So I'm again urging you to see to it, to the extent that you can, that people with whom you have a relationship or over whom you have an influence are doing something besides talking about the people who are searching for survival by trying to get the things that they need to survive. You know, you can't take a shopping cart into the store and load it up with the things that you need and go to the cashier. There are no cashiers. there are no stores that are operating. So if you're going to have things that you need, then you're just going to have to go and get them. That is called survival. It is called searching for survival. It is not called looting unless you want to criminalize somebody and make the rest of the world believe that their efforts to survive are not not valuable or not legitimate efforts to survive. And I don't know, why we would spend any time looking at petty thievery when we were looking at grand larceny, and we can go into that, to a much greater extent when we have more time. But the important thing is that you must understand that times like these give us the opportunity to provide, they provide us with the opportunity to build group solidarity, to unite, to come together, not to be divided over petty issues. We do not care about these things at the moment. After we have gotten everybody back who has survived this, after we have gotten them safely back into homes with food and clothing and medical care and basic needs met, after we know that people have revenue of some kind coming in from employment, then we can talk about the things that people did that were not necessarily civil or not necessarily moral. But this is not the time for us to debate the morality of behavior of people who are dying. I don't know how moral we would be under those circumstances. So let us talk about the real issue. The real issue is the survival of African people worldwide, the survival of poor people worldwide, African and otherwise. And we care about all human beings. We care about the Europeans, we care about the Africans, we care about all the people who classify themselves by gender, by sexual preference, by religious persuasion. We care about all of them. We simply know that we are not getting enough press for African people in America. American-born Africans are not getting what we feel is a fair shake in the press. So we want to make certain that we do our part to level the field, because it is certainly not level. And we want to make certain that our people do not perish because we ignored them. If they don't make it, it certainly ought not to be because we turned the other way or we found a reason not to take care of them when they needed us. We hope that you will continue to understand that this is not short term, that this will go on for a long time to come, and that we must stay focused, that we must do all that we can do to relieve the suffering.
We've got diseases coming because that is toxic waste, the likes of which we have never seen. We have orphaned children that will probably never be reunited with their parents. That's what we got coming here. This is not a joke. It's not a game. It is not about a plasma TV. It is really not about that. Anybody who could prioritize property over the lives of human beings, you really need to get it together. You really need to get that straight, because this is really about babies. This is about a long-term suffering of a human race, of the human race. This is not one people. If this can happen to any baby anywhere on the planet, it can happen to yours. If you can look at those babies dying, and that can be happening, and that can be allowed to happen, it can happen to any one of us. We are vulnerable. We are seeing our vulnerability. So look into the faces of those babies. Please look into the faces of those grandmothers, those children out there asking for help, and tell yourself that they're criminals. Can you really tell yourself that you really believe that they're criminals? Or are we excusing ourselves so that we don't have to deal with the massiveness of what we're seeing? We cannot allow ourselves to be excused. My mother, I was crying so hard this morning. I called her. She couldn't even call me back because she said she would fall apart. I said, Mom, you know, I can't take it. I'm going crazy by the images. And, you know, then I just got my baby. I picked her up and I just put her on her little cart and I wheeled around the neighborhood telling them about disaster relief efforts that I knew about that were local because I had to get up and do something. She told me when we finally ran into each other in the neighborhood, she came and got me. She said, you can't be walking, you got to make flyers. Baby, you can't fall apart. You can't. You have no right to fall apart. If it's anybody in that terror dome that's walking out alive, if it's anybody in that city that's walking out alive with their life, you got to live. You got to hold on to your mind with all your might because this is a long battle and it's a long fight and it's serious. And nobody can afford to fall apart and nobody can afford to lose their mind to the media that is trying to take our minds and fill it with information that is against us, that is against our best interests. I have to hold on to my minds. I will not be filled with hatred for my own people. I will not look at them as criminals. I will not look at them as refugees and looters. I see who they are. They can't tell me. They can't tell me. They cannot tell me that those are not human beings. They cannot tell me that they're criminals. And they can't tell you either. You can't let them tell you that. You have to listen to your heart. And you got to reach in there. You got to get all you got. You got to do everything that you can. And you got to make sure that whatever you are doing is getting to the people that need the help. There are so many local relief efforts, and they are definitely trying not to allow people in to New Orleans. It is being occupied. There are people calling on cell phones. There are people who want to go and get their loved ones. They know where they are. They have talked to them on the cell phones. They are not letting people into the city. This is so real. This is not a bunch of people shooting and killing. This is a bunch of people dying and starving in feces-infested water, women on their monthly issues with no sanitary products. There are people with diarrhea because there's so much disease and bacteria that are walking around. This is what it is. Don't look at it. Don't look at those helicopters and think, oh, it's over. It's great. They came to get us. No. This is just the beginning. So I just want to appeal to your heart because nobody is trying to appeal to the heart. They're trying to stir up hatred and indifference. And I just want to appeal to your heart and let you know these are human beings, just like these you see sitting right here. These are mine. Those babies over there are mine too. You have to take that mindset. They're yours. And you got to take care of your babies. You got to rescue your babies. You got to make sure your babies are all right. And we have to address the issue of poverty in our community because it is the poverty and the marginalization that has made these people so vulnerable. I look at where I live. I live, of course, in a lovely little community, and, you know, it looks like Pleasantville over there. And then not 5 minutes up the road is a little place that I don't want to name because I don't want to shame anybody there, but it's a death trap. It's just poor beyond belief. It looks like a third world, and this is what we got sitting next to us, and we are sitting up in indifference. And if anything was to happen, when those gas prices go down, we got elders that are going to be freezing to death because $10 a gallon is what they're talking about. We cannot handle that, okay? We got to get it together. We have to get focused, mobilized. We got to get together because we're going to see a lot of death coming up out of this thing, a lot of stress and strife, and a lot of people misplaced. We have to get it together. We got to focus, and we have to know what this really is.
You know, I do think that we have to remain composed because in the midst of death and dying, someone has to be strong. Someone has to continue to work to alleviate the pain and to do whatever is necessary and whatever is possible to do to give people an outlook that is realistic yet optimistic, believing that we will survive this together because we have precedent. You know, we are the people who were the victims of the Atlantic slave trade, which I call the Atlantic captive trade, because we were not slaves, we were free people in Africa being uprooted, being looted from our land. And so we have been in this place We have seen this before. Upwards of 300 million of our ancestors lie at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. That is not to say that we have enough experience with death that we are used to death and that we can just step over death like it doesn't exist. But it does say that we will survive because we have survived all the efforts that everyone has made to deprive us of our life and our liberty. We have survived. And consequently, there has got to be a reason why we have survived other than on the basis of our own efforts. But of course, you make one step and the divine makes two. So we must take those steps. We must do what is necessary. But if you knew something about your history, and I'm sure that if you're watching, you do know something about your history, because we do what we can to make certain that we play a role in that. If you know your history, then you know that our people were the first people, the first teachers, the first parents, the discoverers of all of the laws of mathematics, of medicine, of astronomy. Whatever God didn't create, we could almost say that African people did. So we are a strong and powerful people that have been miseducated so that we do not know our own strength. It is time for us to reflect on our history and know our own strength and know that we have what it takes to survive anything. We're not inviting anything to happen just to test our resiliency, but we must believe in ourselves. We must know that if we made it through centuries of oppression, that we will continue to make it. But we have got to do as much as we can to guarantee our survival and our development, as has been done for us. And again, I want to repeat, I'm not unmindful that there are other people besides American-born Africans suffering in this tragedy. I contribute to all kinds of causes. I'm aware that the Dalai Lama is a Tibetan, and he campaigns on behalf of his people who are oppressed. I'm campaigning on behalf of my people who are oppressed and other people who are also oppressed. But I think that it is very important for us to understand that charity begins at home. And so you begin, as Booker Washington said, you cast down your bucket where you are. And you do what you can where you are. You cannot save everybody in the world. You save whomever you can. You help whomever you can. And it is deplorable for Ayoka to be able to say the things that she said about the conditions that exist now. But these conditions have been going on for some time in countries in Africa, you know, and periodically they come and do a concert and send some money to the refugees in Africa who are dying before our eyes. So this has been going on for suffering. Human suffering has been going on as long, I guess, as there have been human beings, which does not mean that this is less important than other suffering, but certainly to balance out the view, we need to notice that there is suffering going on in parts of the world that where no one is taking up a collection and very few people are sending any supplies to relieve the suffering. So I'm again going to pass the baton on to Dr. Price and ask him to comment further.
Well, I would like to say the frustration, the compassion, the passion that we have is not misplaced. Don't get it wrong. You know what Ayoka felt. I mean, millions of people are feeling this today, and they want to be able to do something. And I implore you that we've sort of gotten into a state of mind in this country of electing people to office, you see, who are not representative of the people. They are representative of special interest, you see, and they have forgotten about the people who elect them to office. And so we as a people, this is a grave opportunity for us to see the state of and the condition of the political mindset that is in this country. And we as the people, this representative democracy that we have to stand up. And every now and then there's a revolution that takes place. I don't care where you're at. There's a revolution that has to take place. Some of these revolutions are armed revolutions, and some of the revolutions are not armed. In this country, it's not necessary to have an armed revolution. This country, we fought our armed revolution in 1776 against the British. Henceforth, we have this democracy, and what we can do is, when we are dissatisfied, when the politicians, those who represent us, or supposedly represent us, are not doing their job, when they are not representing the people, when they are not representing the interests, when they are representing the interests of special interests, we as an American, it is our dual constitutional right and duty to throw these rascals out. You understand? We must throw these rascals out, because the type of individuals that we are electing to public office these days, they are not representative of the people per se. The majority, I say the majority, 98% of the people that are represented in the United States Senate are all multimillionaires. They have no way of knowing what ordinary people feel or what they are going through. So you can't actually blame them, because they are out of, their sensory perceptions are not attuned to the people. They speak a dialogue that is conjured and concocted. But there's a definite dichotomy between what they say and what they do. And we must understand that. And I implore you, during the French Revolution, when the common people came to Mademoiselle Josephine and said, Mademoiselle, Mademoiselle, the people have no bread. Her being out of touch with her castles and mansions and diamonds, she says, let them eat cake. There's no difference. And when you say to the head of FEMA that the people at the convention center has no water, and he says, I didn't know they didn't have water, what do? These rascals must go. They are incompetent, they are incapable of functioning at the level in which the ordinary people, their senses, their consciousness, their perception are totally maligned. But we as a people, we are constantly placing the emphasis on re-electing these people to office day in and day out, and the system stinks, just like the water in New Orleans stinks. They are corrupt, just like the levees are corrupt around New Orleans, and nothing. We have to fix it. The onus is on us. It is our duty. It is our constitutional right. And I implore you to take in consideration that this is our constitutional right, and do what you have to do as a citizen of this great country of America. Thank you, Guru Maji.
Just to follow up on the issue of accountability, the lack of response time was reprehensible. The military is trained to respond within 24 hours. The number of bases within the southern parts of this country, in California, in Texas, still standing in Louisiana, as well as in Florida. You have KC-135s that could have been dropping supplies into people. You have medevac planes that were going unused. I know what I speak. I was an officer for 5 years. I know where these places are. I know what armor is out there. I know what's available. None of it was utilized. Accountability is going to be a big issue, and should be, because resources that are ours were not used for us. National Guard forces that should have been in Louisiana were deployed in Iraq. A big stink is being made about the money, the $10 billion being allocated, where people are saying we should pat Congress on the back for coming back early to allocate this $10 billion. $86 billion has already been allocated for Iraq. Accountability is key. Thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that we want to look at in this situation that we're faced with here is the fact that when they present all these people to us, the president, the head of national security, the Homeland Security Agency, FEMA, all these individuals who are sitting around basically telling us consistently that they didn't know this, that they didn't know that. This is highly impossible. I mean, we have satellites in the sky that you can go on the internet and view almost any block of any city, anywhere, at any time. There are lots of things that are not being shown to us. One of the things that I think is very important is that we need to know how many of our people are dying. We got people down there who are living in places where they're in the attic without water, without food, without anything to sustain them. And even worse, I heard one report that, and for those people who don't know, you see down that part of the world, they have a lot of alligators. And that the water is so toxic that even the alligators are dying. And understand that the alligator is a descendant of an animal that has been on this earth since prehistoric times. And if the water is so bad that it's killing the alligators, just think of what it's going to do to a human being. So the crisis that we face with here is great. The other thing that we're going to look at is they're depopulating the entire city of New Orleans with people whom they have said had no means of getting out. So if they depopulate the city, how are the very same people who had no means of getting out going to get back in? Now, it appears to me that what's going to happen to New Orleans is that New Orleans is going to get to be gentrified. Ninth Ward is going to get condos. All those areas around there that people are used to seeing are going to now have brand new high-rises around them, around Tulane, LSU, and Old Dominion University there, around the Superdome. All of that's going to change now. So that now what you're going to have is once you kick all the people out, and since most of them cannot come back, what is going to replace them? And even worse, what's going to happen to all of these people? These are people who've been displaced. They'll never be back again. And that's a kind of a form of genocide that we are facing here in this society. And if we don't become aware of this subtle form of this that is happening right now in that one little situation, that it could happen in other places. So let me conclude my little statement by saying that the wonderful thing about what has happened, what this tragedy has done, is that it has created a situation in which the whole world is watching. And that now it is time for this dialogue to be created so that we can begin to get some things done and people begin to ask some questions. Because now you see, as we were talking earlier about the story of the emperor's new clothes, how the emperor is walking along the street naked and everybody's praising the emperor about how nice he looks even though the emperor is naked. Now everybody realizes all over the world that the emperor really is naked.
Well, the naked emperor is in the process of organizing an oversight committee. And it has been observed that no African Americans are on the oversight committee, which seems strange given the fact that African Americans appear to be among the largest concentration of the casualties. And when I looked at the Superdome, where a number of people were evacuated to, I saw a large number of African Americans. When I see people standing outside of the dome in Houston, I see a large number of African Americans. When I look at the rooftops, I see African Americans on the porches, in the windows. I know for a fact that we were looking for members of our family who are African American that we couldn't find. So there seems to me to be, it just makes all the sense in the world that there ought to be representation, Dr. Price, African American representation on any oversight committee that intends really to take care of everyone who has been adversely affected by this event. But apparently, someone thinks that you can have representation, without representing the people who need to be represented, which is a new way of governing people, because this is one of the hallmarks of democracy, is that your representatives actually represent you. So we must now insist that the oversight committee be truly representative, that you pointed out that we have multimillionaires in our legislative bodies, so that, these are people who are out of touch, or who may not feel as the people who are grassroots or lower class or underclass or whatever other name you want to give to people that you are now calling out of their names again by naming them refugees. You need to understand that we must have representation on that oversight committee, and we must have access to the records of people to whom we are giving money who are claiming that they're spending money to relieve the suffering. But go to your local organizations. They are having collections everywhere. If they are not having one near you, create a collection. Give a garage sale. Donate the proceeds to a worthy cause. Make sure that you know that the worthy causes are the causes that truly contribute to the people in need. We thank you for viewing our show. We hope to hear from you. Our post office box is 1923, Madison, Illinois, 60443. P.O. Box 1923, Madison, Illinois, 60443. Omni U. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for helping.